Star Wars Outlaws releases in only a few days, and even though Ubisoft has desperately tried to change the image surrounding this title, it hasn't worked for them. All of their marketing material has blown up in their faces, and because the media has finally released their review scores for the title, they and also Ubisoft are getting completely and utterly roasted for all of the bad gameplay that's circulating the internet. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I, of course, do not trust the critics. I will always play a game myself in order to judge it, and I will be streaming this over release weekend to give it a shot, to show you guys my genuine opinions. Maybe it'll be fantastic, but so far things have looked abysmal. There are tons of little bugs and glitches within the gameplay we've seen so far, and even though the critics are giving it pretty decent scores, they're not close to perfect. Taking a quick peek on Metacritic, it is sitting at a 77 based on 64 critic reviews. And of course, I usually think that these critics are complete and utter shills who were paid off to say positive things. I don't feel any different here. There are quite a few mixed reviews, but even the mixed reviews are generally leaning positive, saying it's comforting, it feels like Star Wars, but by the way, it's really buggy and glitchy, and it just seems like they are trying their best to shill for this title. They are trying their best to sell as many copies as possible to you, which again is why I play these games myself. I stream them on the channel so you can see my first impressions, but the critics are saying, it's not the worst, even though the more footage that gamers have seen, the more negative the discussion surrounding this has gotten. You've got outlets giving it 95s and 85s. Now, I've never heard of God is a Geek, but they got a code to this game, they're reviewing it, and they gave it an 85, but they clearly did not proofread what they were saying, because there are tons of mistypes saying things like Star Wars Outlaws has a well-written story and is filled with exciting missions, solid gameplay, and some beautiful worlds to explore. And of course, you know, we always make typos, right? People can make typos, but when you're trying to put out a professional level review, you'd think that they would proofread what they've written. VG247 says it is amazing. It's got a strong sense of place, beautiful recreations and restorations of ancient cities, buildings, temples, vibes. The Star Wars galaxy absolutely evokes the same sense of wonder like the movies. They don't really talk about the game here. They're talking about how it made them feel in comparison to other Star Wars projects. I just think that's a really bad way to approach a review, because it seems like you are trying to get people to swipe their credit card based on nostalgia. I mean, all of these reviews, I've got to be honest, seem very bizarre and like they're written by AI. A huge open world game filled with Star Wars, and you don't have to force choke it to make it fun. What are these? Are these fake? Are these AI? Like, none of this sounds correct at all whatsoever. Half of this doesn't even make sense. Now, if we put these poorly written show reviews aside, people on social media are not happy with what they've seen. And I have to say this all the time. I want developers to be passionate about what they're creating. I want them to love what they're making as well. But they're not creating games for themselves to buy. They are creating games for gamers to buy, and gamers are not happy with the content that's being produced in the gaming industry right now by these mainstream companies, and Ubisoft has a massive problem on their hands for the rest of the year, because not only is Star Wars Outlaws releasing in just a few days, and so far things are not looking good, but they also have to deal with Assassin's Creed Shadows launch, and that has been raked across the coals too. It just seems that these companies are completely out of touch with what their customers want, and they are not trying to reverse course. They're not trying to listen to our criticisms and our feedback, and the only reason why I criticize games is because I want them to be better. I love the video game industry. I love watching movies, TV shows, reading books. I want things to be good. I want content to release that is fantastic, but none of these companies, whether they're in Hollywood or the games industry, are listening to us. And that means I'm going to sit here and criticize what they're creating. So maybe one day we can get back to having the amazing entertainment we once did. There are still some, pieces of content that release that are fantastic, but they are few and far between. How many Elden Rings are we getting? Not many. Ubisoft's 2008 character Elika versus the modern audience's Kay Vess from Star Wars Outlaws. It's time to go back. Yeah, she looks very similar. She's got, the shorter haircut. It's supposed to be very choppy and wispy. She's clearly got a lot of good assets on her. I mean, she looks like a feminine, sexy, but also strong female. She does not look like she's going to take shit from characters she does not like, but she doesn't look bitchy about it versus Kay Vess, who I don't know what they've done with her face model. It is like they have changed it several times. Initially, they faced backlash, so they changed it, and it's just gotten progressively worse as time has gone on. Mark Kern, aka Grums, had made this, thread saying, how did it get worse from the trailer to shipped in-game model? It just looks terrible. She before looked better, and it's not like she looked fantastic there either. I mean, they could have tried to make her look decent because they had such a beautiful model who the character's face was based off of, such a beautiful woman that they had basically at their disposal to do all of this modeling after. And they decided instead to basically take her face and completely alter it. And I just don't know what they were thinking that this character model was going to be acceptable, that this character model was going to look appealing to anybody, from the hairstyle to the cheekbones to the jaw. None of it looks good. And from what we've seen of gameplay, it looks like this game is filled with bugs, with glitches, and I don't know, again, why they thought that this game was ready for release. The takedowns look awful. Look at how extremely buggy that is. This is why you can't take critics seriously, because there are pieces of footage out there like this, and they thought, oh yeah, this deserves a 7 out of 10. I mean, my goodness, it truly could not get any worse for this game with all of the terrible footage that we've seen, and people are not happy. There are people that they expect to spend $130 on the special editions that have, yes, at launch, paywalled content, and they thought, you know what? Let's have a game focused around stealth and around being careful, and then we're going to put the least amount of effort into the stealth freaking mechanics. I mean, I don't know what developers thought that this game was ready to ship if there are bugs that are this bad in it, but it makes the game unplayable when you're being, thrown across the map, aggroing all of the enemies when it relies heavily on stealth. So yes, Star Wars Outlaws has embarrassed itself yet again with this awful, buggy gameplay and the terrible looking character screenshots that we've gotten. And of course, I will be keeping my eye on the reaction over the next few days leading up to release, and I will be streaming it over launch weekend to give it a shot, as I've talked about it quite a bit. But so far, things are looking absolutely terrible for Star Wars Outlaws, and I don't think that this game is going to go over very well with gamers. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.